Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Black Blaze Gaming. This is an odd video for me to make. I wasn't really expecting this. I think I might say that with a lot of my videos, to be honest. It's become kind of a YouTuber trope. But it's just not so often that I get something come across my newsfeed that I'm so passionate about that I have to just set up a camera and start talking off script. And especially rare for it to be so impactful that I set up my real camera and grab my Shure SM7B off the stand because it doesn't reach over here in my current setup. But I'd heard about the forthcoming Microsoft layoffs before they happened. Obviously, they've happened by this point. I knew a lot of studios in the game division were going to be affected. I'd heard about Matt Feror leaving ZeniMax. I'd heard about their other MMO project being canceled, which is really frustrating for me. Being a longtime fan of ESO and being sort of disillusioned by everything that that's happened with it over time and some of the ways that the company has acted in recent years, obviously haven't really been as into the game as I used to be. And by that, I mean, I canceled my subscription last year with the AI shit, and I haven't renewed and haven't played since I found out about the Gina Bruno situation with Nephis QS and the last video that I made on this topic. But I came across Mr. Matty Play's video today about sort of more of the in-depth insight behind the scenes as to what happened with the Microsoft project, Microsoft layoffs, and how it affected the ZeniMax project. And I haven't finished the video, but I got to a certain point in it where I just couldn't hold in my frustration anymore, and I had to talk. So here I am. I want to make it very clear to anybody who's watched me in the past that while I am exceptionally frustrated with ZeniMax and mainly just specific people at ZeniMax and how they've acted, I don't think the studio itself should be punished for that. The thing is that Elder Scrolls Online is still a very great game. It really, really is. I have my issues with how the company's acted, and I tend not to support people who've acted in that way. I don't have a problem with people who do support them. The thing is that I've learned recently that something that I have sort of an issue with is that I am addicted to, what I see as right and wrong, right? And there's certain things that I just hold conviction on no matter what. Like when Helldivers 2 had the issues with Sony, forcing the PSN subscriptions and then banning the game in 177, then 180 countries. They walked back the PSN subscription requirement or sign up requirement, and everyone like forgave them immediately, but they restricted sale in 177 countries. And to me, that wasn't right, because the whole idea of Helldivers is we're all blindly uniting to fight for Super Earth. That was the whole point. And if we cannot unite IRL to fight for Super Earth, then I'm not going to play it at all. I didn't think it was fair. That isn't to say that I hold it against anybody who went back to the game after the account requirement was removed. It's just something that I couldn't do. And with ZeniMax and Elder Scrolls Online, I had the same sort of conviction. Now, another thing that might not be clear based on my previous videos is that I actually like ZeniMax Studios as a company. I think that there's a lot of great people there. Obviously, they made one of the best, most successful MMOs of all time. Not that a MMO has to be good to be successful necessarily, but it is a good game. And as far as their whole team goes, I don't know everybody on the team. Of course, I don't know the names of everybody on the team. But I think Matt Feror I just found him a very inspiring person. And I thought that the studio would be largely in good hands as long as he was around. Granted, I did think that maybe they were taking some of their best talent and moving it over to their other project, Blackbird, in order to, have their best hands on that project. And ESO, they pretty much got the formula down, so they don't really need to do a ton in regards to innovation and development in that game necessarily. And to be fair, to be totally fair, I'm completely fine with that. I think it's okay to want to move on to another project as well, while keeping another successful project sort of in a sort of safe, playing it safe mode kind of thing while you work on this other project. I think that's fine. I genuinely do. ESO was in a decent state for a while, but they still, and even despite all that, they have innovated. They have, the subclassing now. Or rather multi-classing, and they have the they added the scribing stuff last year. So it's not like they haven't been innovating. It's just that there's been a lot of kind of lack of attention to quality control, I think, in that game, as well as just the way they've managed the community lately has been really bad. But when I heard about their project being canceled, I was I didn't really have a certain way to feel on that. I didn't know really what I was thinking about it, because I didn't know what the project was. And so I sat back and I thought about it when I heard that it was canceled. And I thought, the thing is that Matt Feror had shifted his attention to working on Blackbird. And because I find him to be such an inspiration, I wanted that game to come out and be decently successful. And a large part of that also is that I knew that Rich Lambert was likely not a part of it. And Gina Bruno was likely, she still works for ZeniMax, and maybe she'd do some crossover work, with Blackbird's community. But I'm still mad. I'm still mad about all that. I'll die mad. It's generational, this hate. I'm going to pass this down in my genes to my kids. But anyways, the thing is, I found out a little bit more about it, and I'm even more mad now. But I'm mad for more reasons. I mean, I have a petty reason why I'm mad. I'm petty. I have the petty reason for my anger would be that it's a sci-fi looter shooter, and I would love another sci-fi looter shooter because I like sci-fi shit, and I think there's been a lot of good fantasy stuff lately, and I'd really like to see more good sci-fi. We've had Cyberpunk, which was incredible. Last thing I can think of that has really good sci-fi is like Warframe, which has been really expanding its story and lore and stuff, and had some really cool, interesting ideas. And I think it's a good universe. Aesthetically, it's not my favorite. That crown definitely goes to Cyberpunk, but not a lot of good sci-fi lately. And no, I don't count Destiny 2. I don't like Destiny 2. I don't count Halo either anymore, because I just never been a big Halo fan. Nothing against Halo. Everything against Destiny. I don't like Destiny. But anyways, the main thing that really pissed me off about this is how the studio was treated. Obviously, there was the big unionization stuff that happened last year with Microsoft's game studio employees and stuff. And I don't think they've negotiated a contract yet. I think that Mr. Matty Plays did mention that in his video. But the fact that they weren't told anything, the fact that they just, like, Phil Spencer loved their game, and everyone at Xbox loved their game, and they got to play a demo of it, and they're like, oh, it's so fucking good, I can't put the controller down and all this stuff. Which, I mean, I'll be honest, doesn't mean a whole lot coming from Phil Spencer, because I don't like Phil Spencer, and I don't think he understands fuck all about games. I mean, he said the same shit about Starfield. He's an idiot. But it's still, like, weird to me that the company loved this game that ZeniMax was working on, and you have ZeniMax being one of the most successful MMO developers in the world ever. Like, I mean, ESO is still one of the top, I would say at least top 5 MMOs in terms of earnings, and consistent player base. A lot of people might not agree with that or might not like ESO, but the truth remains that it is one of the most successful MMOs of all time, and it comes from essentially a nobody developer. I would say a lot of the attraction to the game comes from the IP. I think that's totally fair to say, but it did hold its own, and it's been around for 10 years. It's made over $2 billion. That's a huge success. Black Desert Online can't claim that. I don't know if Final Fantasy 14 is around the same area. I assume they kind of are in terms of like their profitability and stuff like that. Obviously, World of Warcraft is the most successful of all time, but ESO, I mean, made waves, especially for how rocky its launch was. And I thought it was okay at launch, but it didn't really hook me. And when I came back in 2018, it totally fucking hooked me. So to see that they have this successful studio who can make the lucrative live service shit and do it well and do it profitably, and they have a new project they're working on that the company loves, and they still get fucking axed. It's so disheartening. And I think what's like I said, what's the most disheartening is how they were treated during this the transition, I guess, or like when the whole decision got made. It's like they're not told anything. Their Slack accounts get deleted and shit. They have no idea if they even have a job anymore. It's so frustrating. There was apparently over 300 employees working on Blackbird, and that's especially when you take into account my belief that ZeniMax had moved a lot of its best talent over to this new project. That's really disheartening when you take the best people at your company to work on this project, and you've been in development for years. And I mean, they were planning to release in 2028. So yeah, it's a 10-year development cycle, but it had been shelved at one point because it wasn't like they were having some technical difficulties. There was just some issues with it, and they focused on ESO for a while, which was a good idea, I think. I mean, they did make ESO really, really something special. But it's... as much as I trash ZeniMax, and as much as I say, you know, people like Gina Bruno should be reprimanded for their behavior, I don't think Rich Lambert is fit to lead this company or lead ESO. And I think the future is a lot more bleak now that Matt Fever is gone and Rich Lambert has been moved up to game director from creative director for ESO. I just... Microsoft has killed their golden goose. I don't know if ESO was necessarily the most profitable thing for Xbox, for like the games division of Microsoft, but it's hard to say that it wasn't a major component of Xbox's profitability, especially when they keep axing really good games or axing games before they come out or whatever, and shutting down studios and all this stuff. I don't think Game Pass is really as profitable as people think it is, especially because if we look at something like Netflix, where they've had to increase prices for their subscriptions, they've had to introduce ads to be able to actually make revenue again, because they can't afford to keep making these movies and buying rights to movies and stuff like that, or rather licensing the rights to movies and TV shows and stuff. And movies and TV shows are by a wide margin generally quite a bit cheaper to make than video games, especially big live service Lollapaloozas like fucking ESO. Because, you know, I sit here and talk about how they've made $2 billion on ESO, but let's not pretend like it wasn't expensive to make and maintain all this time. Especially having started development in 2007, a good 7 years before the game even came out, and it had a rocky launch. But it's just, I don't know, it's just insane to me. So yeah, I don't think Game Pass is all that profitable for Xbox or Microsoft as people might think, especially when it takes sales away from actual games that deserve like the full price purchase. Essentially, it's like, oh, I can go and try that for free, and I don't have to. For free, obviously you're paying a subscription, but I can go try this game, and if I love it, I can complete it, and while I'm on my subscription, and I can just move on to another game and try out a billion games and not play through the ones I don't like, and not feel like I've lost any money or lost, like I've been cheated. So at the end of the day, I might be rude and say mean things on here and on my Twitter constantly about ZeniMax. I don't think they deserved this. I don't think this was the way to go about this. And yes, I do think that there should be some consequences to some of the people in ZeniMax for how things have gone in recent years. But this was not it. And I would have been there day one for Blackbird when it comes out, or when it was going to come out. I would have been there. I mean, it's obviously going to be, its real name is actually Kestrel, but I would have been there day one for that, because I want to try it. I want to give ZeniMax the chance to win me over again, especially because I like Matt Fever and I like a lot of the artistic team stuff, and like they have great people there. They genuinely do. Of course, I'm not going to agree with all their decisions, but this just wasn't right. And I don't know who's responsible at Microsoft for these decisions. I don't know how you can have Phil Spencer and other higher ups at Xbox saying, "Oh, this game is amazing, I can't put down the controller," and then the game gets canceled anyways. And it's happened multiple times now. Like, I don't understand how that happens. So because I don't know the hierarchy there completely, and I don't know who's really pulling the strings. Although I do know that on some level, Microsoft is trying to lay off a lot of people to free up funding to spend on AI, which this is the worst timing to do any of that. And so this is the main crux of all this for me, is that I'm an IT. I build computers. I fix computers. I tinker with things. I mean, I work in all kinds of different software. It's something that I'm extremely passionate about. And actually, my next video, I totally threw out my workflow for my pipeline for my previous video, which, don't get me wrong, I'm very proud of that video. It has a lot of flaws, but I was really happy doing all that animation work and all that stuff. And it's something that I really enjoy. But even amidst throwing out that pipeline, that workflow, and developing an entirely new system, and learning new software and stuff, it's not the last step. I have more I want to do to completely overhaul my workflow, because at the end of the day, my goal is I want to move away from Windows. And I've wanted to do this for about a year now. I've been thinking about moving away from Windows. It's weird because I've used Linux before and I didn't really love it. This was years and years ago. I've used Mac OS and I wouldn't touch Apple with a 39.5-foot pole. I've hated their stuff for a long time. I don't like their cheap solder that melts if you breathe on it wrong, and fries your whole board. I don't like Apple. I don't like Mac OS. I never have, iOS. I don't like proprietary, like, fascist fucking overlord software and hardware. I hate it. And hell, even as a PC fan, I'm not happy with NVIDIA right now. AMD graphics cards have never impressed me, but their processors are good. I have a lot of, opinions on a lot of this stuff. And so I'm planning on moving away from Windows. And then you have really big creators like James Lee, a famous animator, very, very talented, who's moved away from Windows onto Linux, moved away from Adobe onto like Affinity and stuff like that, moved away into like DaVinci Resolve and stuff like that. And you have PewDiePie just dropped a huge bomb about him moving to Linux as well, and completely removing anything Google related from his life. That's huge. That's gigantic, because don't get me wrong, I'd love to get away from Google too, even though I'm trying to start a YouTube career here. But it's like, this is just so ridiculous to me for Windows, for Microsoft to try to make a bunch of these layoffs, create a ton of bad blood across the world, so they can free up spending for AI. which, by the way, is not going to improve their products. It's not going to make anything better. It's not going to make people want to stay on Windows, because it's just not going to give anybody the things that they really need to get their work done. It's not improving anyone's lives. No, and I'm not saying I'm not one of those morons who just hates AI from the ground up and don't I like just can't stand any of that stuff. I'm also not afraid of being replaced, because I know what AI is like. I mean, we don't even have AI. We talk about it like it's AI. We call it AI, but it's not AI. It's just these learning models that are, don't get me wrong, convincingly advanced, but they're not capable in the ways that people think that they are. And while they might be a decent fad or flash in the pan for a bit, where a lot of crypto bros and stuff like that can make a little bit of cash on them, at the end of the day, they simply aren't going to replace artists. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say there's not going to be a market, or there isn't a market for AI created art. It just isn't what people think it's going to be. It's not going to have the growth and expansion rate that something like the games industry has had for so long. And of course, the games industry has shrunk a little bit, largely due to the end of the lockdowns and people not needing to have as much to do because they have jobs to go back to. But it's just, I don't know. It's frustrating that they would make a decision this stupid. And if you haven't been thinking about it prior to this, I think moving to Linux is a great idea. I think moving away from these big tech companies like Adobe and Google and all this stuff is something we as a civilization need to start considering more seriously, and away from Apple too, because Apple's no better. At the end of the day, I think the main thing I just want to get across is that ZeniMax didn't deserve this. This was not this was not a good idea for Microsoft. This is not beneficial for Windows or fucking MSN or whoever, they own, that they think that they might be benefiting by investing heavily in AI. And maybe I'm crazy. Maybe at the end of it all, like maybe there's something going on behind the scenes with AI tech that's really genuinely going to improve the world and change the world for the better. But I really fucking doubt it. Big companies spending billions of dollars on stupid, useless things happens plenty enough for me to not fully trust them whenever they do something this stupid. And I'm hoping that, as much as I know that they're a big megacorp, I'm hoping that Valve puts out a more fully fledged Steam OS for desktops. I mean, yeah, I know you can install it on desktops, but I want it to be more feature rich and have a lot more of that open source platform. I think generally software going the direction of open source is just generally better, and I'm excited to see the future of that go forward. And I think ultimately that's what I want to see after all of this, because to me, obviously this is a personal one for me, because I do care about ZeniMax and Elder Scrolls Online, and I did want to see, Kestrel come out or Blackbird come out. I wanted to see that get finished and see what it was like and see what they were going to do with it. But it's so frustrating that they screwed ZeniMax over the way they did. It's not fair to them, and it's not fair to us. And I hope Microsoft starts to burn. I know there's probably good people at Microsoft too, but at the end of the day, this cannot continue. We cannot be allowing companies like this to destroy people's lives in this way any longer. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. So my heart goes out to the people at ZeniMax who have had their passion project destroyed, taken away from them. I don't know what Matt Fear is doing. Maybe he's retiring, but I hope he's doing well. If he's not retiring, if he's moving on to some other project or company or whatever, I hope that he finds success there. I know that he probably will, because he's very good at what he does. And if there isn't a giant fucking walkout of like Microsoft's fucking game studios, I would be very shocked. I would honestly love if like everyone at ZeniMax just fucking walked out, shut down the ESO servers for like a week. Like, oh, you want to kill your golden goose? Well, this is what it looks like. Like, honestly, genuinely, because it's bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. And Microsoft is more evil than I ever expected, I guess. Well, not that I didn't expect them to be evil, but it's frustrating, and they just need to pay. They need to pay for it. So yeah, that's about it from me. I do have another video in the works, and I've been like I said, I threw out my whole pipeline, my whole workflow, and I'm trying to get that video out as soon as possible. It's taking time. It's not working out the way I wanted it to, so it's going to have to change a little bit, but it'll be out fairly soon. And I hope to see you all in that video, and thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.
Woo.